on here on The Nation at 5, ladies and gentlemen. Closer home, and this is a serious matter that has now been taken cognizance of by the government, with the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman herself getting involved. CNN News 18 was the first to highlight the menace of loan apps on national media, on television channels. We brought out the case studies where there were multiple entities, multiple families that were being forced into committing suicide and also filing criminal complaints against these illegal loan apps and the loan sharks who are catching them in a debt spiral and then using information from their mobile phones and to try and shame them on social media using deepfakes and morphed images. And there was a Chinese connection to it. The NBFCs handing out some licenses or some permits, and there were Chinese nationals who were using this, and they were using this as front to try and conduct a full money racket or a loan app racket. Nirmala Sitharaman expressing concern over the rising penetration of illegal loan apps, offering credit with heavy interest and hidden charges to vulnerable and low-income individuals. Mind you, these loans are as low as 3,000 to 5,000 rupees, which are repayable in 6 to 15 to 20 days, but a high rate of interest. And as the interest accrual happens, the interest amount is far greater than the principal itself. The RBI now will be preparing a whitelist of all legal apps and will ensure that only those apps that are hosted online on online platforms. And this comes just a day after another loan app scam came to light in Andhra Pradesh, where a couple committed suicide after taking an online loan of 50,000 rupees. The couple was threatened by the app administrators as they couldn't pay loan on time. They died after consuming pesticides. Ashish Merishi with us. We'll also try and go across to Pallavi Ghosh in just a bit. Ashish, this issue had surfaced and we had put out the details where there was a clear hand of Chinese individuals who had got some leeway with the NBFCs, dormant accounts, or they had got some responsibility to be able to conduct the front end for the NBFCs, and they were now then posing as the financial institutions themselves. These loan apps were also embedded with certain malware that could pull data from those people who had installed it on their phones.
So Anand, there are multiple case studies that have come to light till now, and it's not only one state, there are many states where such kind of things have come. Now, there are multiple FIRs which were registered in Bangalore, some were registered in Hyderabad and various other places. But finally, the Enforcement Directorate got into the picture and they tried to find out from where was this money coming. So after investigation, they were able to find out that huge amount of money, the origin was coming from none other than China. It was being routed through Hong Kong, Singapore and various other places, but ultimately the money originated from China. Now what is the scam? The scam is basically that, these companies basically, which has Chinese antecedents, they did not have the license to operate in India. They were not getting license from Reserve Bank of India. Now what happened finally? So what happened finally was that, these companies took licenses of dormant NBFCs. These dormant NBFCs gave the license for a money, for some price, and ultimately some fintech companies were hired as a front. So the fintech companies were basically behaving like NBFCs, but the real money was coming from China. And finally what happened was that when loans were being given at that very high interest rate, ultimately they had no other option. Because there are the vulnerable class people who basically took small time loans between 3 to 5,000 to 50,000 to 1 lakh rupees. When they were not able to return this money, then they basically used the technique of naming and shaming them. They basically used the contacts in the phone of those individuals who took the loan, and finally sent messages to their relatives and friends. And there are so many case studies where people had to commit suicide because of that. And that is why there were multiple FIRs which were registered. Now ED has registered multiple PMLA cases, and we have already seen money flowing out of India. This is something really worrisome, because money which was basically coming into the radar of investigative agencies like ED, it has gone out of India through cryptocurrency exchanges, and we don't know who the final beneficiary is.
Right. I've got Pallavi Ghosh also. Pallavi, what are the directions that have been issued at this meeting? Who all was present with the Finance Minister taking cognizance?
See, there have been multiple complaints, really, Anand, on this. And the fact and the biggest fear, really, of the government has been that it can be misused by our opponents across the border. There was also this concern, really, Anand, about the Chinese and the, Pakistani misusing it, and it's a national security concern. And mind you, this is not just not only about Chinese apps or only about loan apps. It's also a series of measures which the government is going to be taking as far as online fraud is concerned, which is why you will be noticing that over the last few days, there have been several people who have been endorsing, especially celebrities, who have been dragged in to explain and educate to the people how they really need to be careful so that there's no online fraud. But this is the first big step which has been taken as far as the loan apps are concerned. Be careful. They are registered apps, which the RBI is going to put out the list on, and only take loans from them or from recognized banks.
Now, is this limited only to loan apps, or does this whitelist also include some other apps also? So is there going to be a thorough check of those, and what makes the whitelist, or who makes the whitelist?
But the first step, Anand, is going to be about the loan apps. But as I said, and it's going to be actually covering all other apps as well, which can lead to online fraud, duping vulnerable customers and consumers. The whole idea is that the government is going to streamline the process so that, our national security. At a very quick point, this is also going to finally lead up to what Finance Ministry sources tell us is a cryptocurrency policy as well, because that's another area of concern of misuse and a threat to our national security.
Where the government clearly has taken a position, and the RBI too, on that aspect. Pallavi, thank you for your inputs. Ashish